Hello, welcome to my presentation. Today I'll be covering my data mining project, which for me was monitoring cryptocurrency prices and attempting to predict and forecast what those prices would look like going forward into the future. Now, um, to kind of get started here, I just want to say that my two group members, I reached out to them throughout the month. I sent out multiple group chat links and I received no response from one of the members, and then the other member just completely left me on red, and I haven't heard back from them. And it's the night of the submission, so I'm working with what I have. I don't have a PowerPoint prepared because I was writing this write up by myself and performing this data analysis and everything here all by myself. So we're going to go with that, and let's get started with this presentation. So essentially, I wanted to answer the question of how can we predict and forecast cryptocurrency prices accurately going into the future? Now, initially, that sounds like very challenging because if someone was able to predict prices in the stock market or cryptocurrency, then anyone could be very wealthy and know what to invest in. But the nature of the stock market and the cryptocurrency market is incredibly volatile. So I used several models we'll go through here to try to give my best attempt to answer that question. Now, getting started on the context of cryptocurrency, cryptocurrency, as most of you guys should know, is a decentralized digital currency made through blockchain. And you've probably heard of projects like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those are usually the largest things that people know of when it comes to cryptocurrency. And I went ahead and downloaded a very large data set of cryptocurrency prices, the high, low volumes, and the market cap, which is the market capitalization, basically how much market share that coin has. Um, so that is going to be our main metric of outcome here on this project. The market cap is our y-axis for most of these models. So when evaluating this, I had to first determine what would be the most viable models in order for a prediction problem like this one. And I settled on linear regression and exponential smoothing forecasting. Now, linear regression, we've gone over in class, is essentially partitions the data into a 60-40 split with training and validation splits. And then using R scores and validation scores, you're able to determine how accurate your forecast or prediction is. And we'll get into that. I have that prepared here, but I also want to talk about exponential forecast smoothing. Now, that's a time series analysis model that we didn't really go over as much, but I found it to be very apt for this data set. And it allowed me to kind of visualize what a specific coin trend would look like over the course of the year. Now, I say a year because this data set, when I first downloaded it, was a span of a decade, and it was over like 60,000 rows worth of data. And I tried to trim it as much as I could down to just this year, 2022, in order to try to remove as many redundant predictors as possible and improve the accuracy of my predictions. So let's get first into, I talked about the question. Let's talk about the methodology I was going to use. Now, I mentioned before linear regression and the exponential forecasting. Now, when you're using linear regression, I talked about the 60-40 split, and I use the Excel Miners toolkit in order to create, pull it up here, this regression summary, just as we did in class. It shows my variables that I included. Now, my variables for this data set I should introduce. The number is just the numerical value. But what's interesting about the number is you'll notice as I go through this data set, coins, the names are repeated. So for example, Polygon is there, sorry, Cardano is there, and you'll see Cardano again here. And the reasoning for that is it is the same coin recorded on each day, because as we know, just like the stock market, prices change over time for the crypto market. They're dynamic. So this set of data was constantly recording. You could see the different timestamps of each time the value of the coin was recorded. So when I go into my specific target, which we'll talk about Solana for my visualization, you'll see even though I have the same coin, it was recorded at different dates over the year. So I could get different values of market capitalization, high, lows, and the different amounts of volume of the coin. So going into the collection methodology once again, I want to talk a little bit about the time series forecasting. And now, the reason I use time series forecasting is when you're dealing with data that progresses over time, uh, models like exponential smoothing can use weighted observations of the past essentially to create future values or at least predict future values. Similar to how regression works, but it's a more visual model and allows for really good comparison of different coins. So let's talk about my initial data summary and visualization. Now, my data summary and visualization, to kind of describe the entire set, you'll see here I used a scatter plot. And now what this scatter plot is going to show is a few things. First of all, it's going to show that the majority of cryptocurrency coins fall below this very low market capital threshold, and they don't even breach this first initial plot on the y-axis. And that's because a lot of coins that aren't really the well-known coins don't really take off, don't really go anywhere. A lot of the times they're scams and rug pulls done to try to make a quick buck by people that create these projects with the intent of getting rich quick. And a large portion of that, of the marketplace, are those coins that don't really have any real value. Now, when we get up here into this middle echelon, you'll start to see the coins that actually do have some amount of value. Things like Litecoin, Terra Classic. These are all coins that have some established value. Once you get up into this tier, you'll find the big Ethereums, the Bitcoins, things that have established value over time. It's a recognizable name, and it's cemented its place in the marketplace. So, but another thing we can notice from this scatter plot is that you'll see that there's a general trend in cryptocurrency over this last year. This is about June. The bottom axis number, as we said before, the number correlates with time progressing over the year. So as the number increases, that just shows the year progressing. It was the best way I could visualize this graph. I just wanted to clarify that so there was no confusion as to what the x-axis was. So with the number being on below, you could see that as time progresses, as does the market capital kind of devalue over time. We'll get into that later. There could be a few reasons for that. I'll talk about that in a moment, but I wanted to go down and talk about Solana, which was my target group essentially for my exponential smoothing model. Now, Solana, it was very difficult to kind of create an exponential smoothing model using several coins. So I decided on one established coin, in this case Solana, in order to kind of visualize it. And this really paints a picture. I used a line chart for this. This was the market capital of Solana within January this year, and all the way in October, it's fallen so far. And this is, like I said, this is a larger established coin. So usually think of like the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones, those large investment funds kind of display how the market is performing. And this is a great indicator to show that the market is definitely on a downward trend right now. But as I said previously, the cryptocurrency market is incredibly volatile, and it's been known to spike back up and fall back down into troughs, and it can go any which way. So it's hard to say. And that adds to the challenge of trying to accurately predict these prices going into the future, as well as the market capital. So now let's go ahead and get into my actual data analysis. So this is the models, the summaries that I was able to produce. I'll kind of open them up on Excel here. This is my linear regression model. You could see my regression summary, the different coefficients, as well as if I go in here, you could see all my residuals. And now the most important part of the linear regression model that we'll get into is the training score and the validation score. Now, this is the actual predictions. We do see that the R score is 54, so it's really not a very high R score. The highest R score is 1, so it's about halfway, and that kind of reflects in the validation score, but we'll get into that. I went ahead and posted all of these on my write-up, and you can see here I also have my my exponential smoothing forecast, and I'll pull that up here. Now, I did 2 of these. This was my initial one, and I found that the forecast was significantly higher in the market capital than the actual date. Now, this could be for a variety of reasons, but what I found later on is that through optimization and optimizing my actual forecast, I got the forecast to be much more in line with the actual values of the coin. This was just for Solana, bear in mind. So now I also did 4 forecasts to try to increase the accuracy of my predictions. You can see the lower confidence index, upper confidence index, as well as the standard deviations. So let's get into the actual results of my analysis. Essentially, I talked about before, the R-score was 0.54, and essentially this led to the actual validation score and the training score being accurate around half of the time. Most of the time, I would say, the predictions overshot the actual values. You'll see here 16 as opposed to 14, 13 as opposed to 8 here. And you can see this trend up here with the exponential smoothing model I did. And I think this could be because I had such a large data set with, even though I trimmed it down already, there's still so many redundant predictors. And you'll find that when I redid my exponential smoothing, I optimized it and I was able to get the forecast much more in line with the actual value. I also posted the prediction score here before I was showing the training score, and you can see the prediction score. It's still very overshooting the actual market values. And it for sure can be said that while there is a downward trend, the prediction is definitely overvaluing the market capitals. And I went ahead and wrote that it should be, while there is definitely room to improve this model, it's far from perfect. I think there's a lot of optimizations I could have made, like I said, removing redundant predictors and cleaning up the data and maybe using several coins rather than just Solana. Or even a larger time span could be more accurate for the forecasting. It definitely should not be easy to create an accurate model for the stock market or cryptocurrency market for that matter, because then it does not promote a healthy market if everyone already knows the answers. So yeah, that was my project. I found it really insightful, really exploring the exponential smoothing model. That was definitely interesting. And I definitely learned a lot from this, and I hope everyone watching did as well. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.